continue trawling through the sewer of mainstream television, and this example is Over the Atlantic, MSNBC. The presenter's Mehdi Hasan, used to present in the UK. Thankfully, we've got rid of one particularly horrific TV presenter. There's still a lot more that the US can take off our hands. Now, the first thing to discuss is this title. So, this ultra-extremist politician makes far-right US lawmakers look mild. Now, you can kind of look at this two ways. You can look at it the Mehdi Hasan way and just divide the right into far right, far right, far right. Or you can think, well, maybe Mehdi Hasan's got the spectrum wrong, and rather than him sitting very neatly in the centre of the spectrum, it's possible that he's on the left, or perhaps even on the far left. And you can't really keep writing off politicians who are gaining votes in the mainstream and making it into Parliament and becoming influential in Parliament and write them off as far right. It indicates that you are not in the centre. And poor little Mehdi Hasan doesn't really understand that. But let's listen to what he has to say about Itamar Ben-Gvir.
Of even crazier, even more extreme candidates. And no, I'm not talking about
more crazier, more extreme candidates.
Next week's midterms here in the United States. I'm talking Israel, where they just had their 5th parliamentary elections in less than 4 years. And this guy, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and his party of far-right extremists and racists, as even the pro...
Far-right extremists and racists. This is what... The left does not have any good arguments against conservative ideals, and they always have to resort to the racism accusation and the extremism accusation, and that's the only tool in their toolbox, right? So I think all the right needs to do is focus on blunting this attack of racism and extremism without throwing away their conservative ideals. I think once the right's able to do that, these very small-brained creatures on the left are really going to be out of tools to keep attacking the right. And thankfully in Israel, the right is looking strong. Itamar Ben-Gvir continues to gain in elections. Netanyahu's been in power for the best part of 15 years. But unfortunately, in the UK, we've had a government that pretends to be right-wing, that pretends to be conservative, and has just been a continuation of Labour and New Labour. So there hasn't really been much to attack in the UK, and that's why people like Mehdi Hasan can accuse real conservative politicians as being far right.
Israel Group AIPAC has acknowledged they are, look set to make major gains in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. There's even talk of Ben-Gvir becoming Homeland Security Minister in a new Benjamin Netanyahu-led Israeli coalition government. Yes, Bibi could be back too.
Bibi could be back too. The longest serving Israeli Prime Minister in Israeli history. A man who's won multiple elections, and elections, Mehdi Hasan, are when you have to win the majority of the votes of that population. So if the winner is far right or far right, and that's where the mainstream is, perhaps you are just totally not aligned with the population that's voting.
More on that in a moment. But look, Ben-Gvir, a man one commentator dubbed the David Duke of Israel, is so extreme that he makes our very own Marjorie Taylor Greene and Carrie Lake and Doug Mastriano look like woke leftists. Let me put it this way. Greene likes to make TV ads where she's holding a gun. Ben-Gvir actually pulled out a gun while on a recent visit to a predominantly Palestinian neighborhood.
So Ben-Gvir lives in what we in the US and UK call the West Bank and what Israel call Judea and Samaria. And these places are very, very dangerous. And the only reason people like Ben Gvir live in these areas are because they are passionate about the future of Israel. They're passionate that lands that Jews lived in millennia ago should make up the state of Israel. And so they are willing to put their lives on the line, their families' lives on the line, to live in these dangerous areas. And Mehdi Hasan has a problem with Ben Gvir having protection, having a weapon there to just in case something kicks off in one of the most dangerous areas in the world for Jews. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know where Mehdi Hasan can even evaluate that that's wrong. You should think about defending your safety and your family's safety. It would be totally incompetent of Ben Gvir not to consider his safety and his family's safety living in a dangerous part of Israel.
Occupied East Jerusalem and urged Israeli police to
So occupied part of Jerusalem. So Mehdi Hasan wants to have a two-state solution. He wants to divide Jerusalem in half. Which country would agree to dividing the capital city in half? Should London be divided in half? Should Washington DC be divided in half? Paris divided in half, and half of it given to Muslim extremists who want to kill the people that live in the other half. Mehdi Hasan thinks that that's the right solution for Israel. Itamar Ben Gvir disagrees.
open fire on Palestinian protesters throwing stones. He claims it was in self-defense. Green says
He claims it's in self-defense. People are being attacked. People are dying. There's a long history of terrorist attacks in Israel. It's not pie in the sky that any day someone close to Ben Gvir could be harmed by a terrorist in these areas of Israel.
she wants to deport illegal immigrants, calling it an invasion. Ben Gvir wants to deport
Illegal immigrants. Mehdi Hasan wants to encourage illegal immigrants to move into the US, and they should be encouraged to move into the US, and the population can double, treble, quadruple. You can have a few Muslim terrorists in there, no problem. Illegal immigration is what Mehdi Hasan supports. Ben Gvir disagrees.
citizens of his own country, Palestinian citizens of Israel, that is, those who he says oppose the state of Israel or are disloyal to it. Stripping them of citizenship is his plan. They must be expelled, he has said.
So Mehdi Hasan would want someone who wants to. So let's say an illegal immigrant goes into the US, and that illegal immigrant has an ideology that he wants to destroy the US, and he wants to install a extremist Islamist regime and overturn the laws of the US. The US should just welcome him and listen to him and give him the tools to succeed, or you put a line down and say, no, you can't you can't overturn everything about this country coming here illegally and wanting to turn it into something from year zero that it hasn't been for centuries. I mean, anyone in the US, if you replace Israel with, say, the US or the UK, it sounds absolutely preposterous. But for some reason, there's this blind spot where when these statements are uttered by people like Mehdi Hasan with Israel in them, people just think, oh yeah, that's a reasonable perspective. But substitute it for the US and UK and think about what he's actually saying here. It's absolutely crazy.
It is difficult to describe just how far right and how far from democratic norms this man is.
Far right.
So who is he? Where did he come from? Because sadly, you're going to be hearing his name a lot more. Ben Gvir came to fame in Israel